We are back for another week of our podcast. And, you know, from week to week, we've had some amazing guests from all over the world. And this week, we decided to reach out to our good friend, farmer Lee Jones of the Chef's Garden and CVI. And this is a world-class farm. You want to talk about world-class businesses and restaurants. Well, guess what? It takes people to support those kinds of businesses and somebody to grow the amazing produce that we put on our menus. And Lee has been a good friend of mine and the Rosenell Collective team for years. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, I don't think anybody in any business can look at 2020 and said that it has been something that they have not had to transition and evolve and deal with. And Lee is somebody that we wanted to reach out to and just see how he's been treating 2020, what kind of new ideas, what kind of new products, and really how they've been coping with this crazy, chaotic year. And hopefully all of you after this podcast, you'll walk away inspired. And I'm also hoping that all of you out there in our community are going to show some support and check out the Chef's Garden website. They are now delivering this amazing produce to your home. So you can do home delivery. And I'm telling you, I've already ordered 2 here just in the last month. And it actually, believe it or not, it actually ends up being less expensive. I mean, I go to the grocery store, probably as far as being efficient, that's one thing I'm not efficient at. I go to the grocery store several times a week and sometimes even multiple times a day. And it gets expensive going there and buying produce up. And now you can get a box with all kinds of amazing seasonal ingredients from Lee and the Chef's Garden. And check it out. It's on their website. I'm a big fan of it. But anyway, let's dig in and hear what our good friend Lee Jones has to say from the Chef's Garden. I was kind of joking around with Chris the other day. You really don't even need an introduction. I mean, you really kind of have become such a big part, an icon really of even just cuisine and farming and American quality produce. I mean, you're on Jeopardy. I remember I thought that was so cool. I was like, man, you have arrived when you are one of the topics.
I'm just a dirt farmer.
We love it. And I always enjoy coming out there and you get an amazing team around you. So Farmer Lee Jones and the Chef's Garden, CVI really is probably one of the most important places on the planet as far as moving the importance of produce and quality grown vegetables really to the level that some of the chefs around the world that have most iconic restaurants point to as a pillar of their cuisine. So we're thrilled to be able to spend some time with you, and thanks for being on the call.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
So Lee, wanted to kind of open it up to you. I mean, so 2020, I mean, it's kind of come out of nowhere, but I mean, how has, like, when this thing first started, I mean, did you anticipate that, did you kind of see things kind of coming, or was it kind of like, hey, let's pivot, and was it kind of like just reactive and maybe you're still trying to figure it out? But I mean, like when everything's really started kind of taking a turn for the worse, I mean, what kind of walk us through, like what in your mind's eye, what was the first thing you were thinking of?
I really thought that it was something that was just, I never envisioned it being to this magnitude. It started on early and we thought it was something that was going to kind of blow over in a short time, and state by state by state, we kept hearing it closing down. And when finally, Florida and Disney closed down, we're like, oh shit. And we do a lot with Disney, have some great relationships with those folks. And we had been thinking about the home delivery and had been actually working on a website, but we weren't up and ready. But when we got the full picture of the direction things were going, we knew we had to do something. We had a lot of product that we had, much like our great-grandparents, stored product in a root cellar-like condition for our customers going into the spring before outdoor crops come in. And so we had probably 250,000 pounds of carrots and beets and celery root and rutabaga and watermelon radish and lime radish and all this product, and the restaurants are just done, closed down. And so we immediately, switched, and our computer system really was not set up for home delivery. And we, worked closely with our aide there, outside aides, and patched together. I mean, what we knew that the computer wasn't set up for it. We had 65 orders and it crashed the system. So we're on the phone with these guys like, we got to patch this thing up. And in the meantime, we're working on the other one. We still haven't switched it over. But, and we've been very grateful that, a lot of chefs that were at home with their families ordered the product. And of course, with the help of social, pushed back out what they had prepared and mentioned that it was available to folks for the first time. And, early on, we got some groundswell. It obviously isn't enough at this point. I think it has potential. It's not going to go away. The restaurants, we're seeing them coming back a little bit each week. But the home delivery is not going to go away. It's going to be a part of our business, forever. So I think that none of us would have wished this kind of devastation or could have really anticipated it. But I think that out of the ashes of this devastation, there's going to be some new things and new entrepreneurs and new businesses and new opportunities and new collaborations that we would have never considered before.
Right.
Lee, way back, I remember like first time I visited there, I remember, you gave us the tour and we got to kind of see the whole story of how the Chef's Garden, the origins of that, obviously playing a big factor in the collaboration with that. And I mean, over the years, you guys have created a brand that is recognized around the world for the produce. And I mean, the quality of it is, when you look at it, any of you out there that have not ever ordered produce from the Chef's Garden, it comes like everything individually packaged, very personal, has your name and or entity, restaurant on it. It's you could definitely see the level of care and everything that goes into it. And one of the things I remember is even just kind of walking through, I don't know what you refer to it as, but like that packing room where you see these boxes.
Sure.
And they're kind of going like all over the world. Did you see, or have you seen, because we're watching the pandemic kind of unfold and even right up until today, you've seen how there's been impacts and it's kind of been at different places around the world. Did you kind of see, or have you seen trends that are similar to like what we see on the news, where it's like, hey, like you see all the stuff with like Italy, we're not shipping anything to Italy now, or we've seen whether it be Canada or so on and so forth. Have you seen a global kind of like ripple effect, and was that in sequence the way that we've actually seen things kind of unfold as it relates to the actual pandemic itself?
I think that did happen in sequence, but I think at this point we're not seeing any international shipping. I think that's pretty much just been shut down. But then you can bring it into the United States and see that some of these areas that were hit and affected more deeply are slower to recover.
Right.
We saw Texas coming back probably a little bit earlier than some. And, Ohio hasn't been affected as deeply with the number of cases. And it seems like it's dodging what appears like the second wave. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with the second wave. But I think that, out of this, there's been kind of more of a interest in regional cuisine. We're seeing butchers, small-scale butchers and bakers, and it, really doing quite well. We've got some hogs that we feed some of the overage of waste from our grade outs on vegetables, some of the best fed pigs in the country eating heirloom tomatoes and what have you. But it was about 3 months out to get the hogs butchered because the local butchers are just that backed up. One place we called said January 2nd.
Wow.
So you're seeing some of this regionalism, if you will, really doing quite well throughout this.
Well, and I mean, obviously a lot of the questions, and we've found this. We've talked with people from London and other high-end restaurants, and we obviously, I guess, to kind of understand the challenges that everybody's going through. I mean, naturally, the subject matter is kind of heavy, and it's
Sure.
it's emotional. But I mean, you know me, you've known me for years. I mean, I'm always trying to find the opportunity what's the new runway look like,
Right.
and I got to say, I mean, I feel like I was talking to somebody about tourism the other day, and I said, don't abandon marketing with tourism. I mean, you may find that if you're here in Northern Virginia or you have a restaurant in Ohio, that you may find that a lot more people drive to destinations, and there's a huge upswing in local and regional tourism. And in your case, like with the home delivery, I mean, I was saying to myself, I was like, wow, not to knock any of the meal delivery kits and stuff like that, but you look at all the different things that to put a meal together. And it's like, when I opened up the box last week, I mean, it's just filled with bags of, you get these beautiful carrots, and you have these beets, and you've got all these amazing greens. And it's like, wow, all this trips to the grocery store I make over the course of the week. This is actually a great deal. I mean, I had enough produce there that my wife and my kids, I mean, we've had several meals. And then never mind, I mean, there's that, but there's also the quality of it. So I do feel like this is an opportunity to kind of look at it through the lens of the consumer, and that you can find an opportunity, I think, in this. It's just that sometimes it takes this a crisis like this to kind of have that kind of a paradigm shift, because you probably never would have accelerated that online shipping. I mean, I'm sure, I can't imagine you guys kicked it into high gear, I'm sure, in 24 hours.
Well, you're exactly right. And I've said this several times, but, we've turned over rocks and looked at different opportunities and had conversations with people and considered collaborations with people that we would have never before. We were comfortable. Things were working. It was moving along. You get stuck in ruts. And, I think that this pandemic is going to take us, through the opportunities that we develop now to the next level. And, you have to make sure that you don't take it out of context. But I was talking to a very, very good friend. I'm not going to name his name, but he said, "Isn't God grand? Look at all the opportunities that he's provided us in the middle of a pandemic." And he wasn't being sarcastic. I really needed it the day that he told me that, because it's about mindset and having your head right and saying, none of us would have wished this, but we are where we are, and we've got to look at the opportunities that are out there,
Right.
And got to go for it.
Right.
And it was a pretty profound statement. It wasn't being said sarcastic. He wasn't wishing it on anybody, but I think he was kind of trying to give me that pep talk to make sure that I looked at things as opportunity, and not opportunistic because you were glad that something bad happened, but just having your head right to be able to look at things and try and make the best of making lemonade, if you will.
Right. I'm going to let Chris and Rachel jump in here with some questions as well.
So, Farmer, one of the questions that I have is, what lesson do you feel that you learn out of this chaos? Like, not just talking about the pandemic, but also, I don't know how the riots are in Ohio around there. I mean, we know that the Chef Garden and the CVI are kind of like in the middle of nowhere. That's one of the most beautiful places that we always go pretty much every year. But what lessons have you learned out of all this chaos?
Well, I just want to remind you, you can get anywhere from our place.
Right.
So we may be in the middle of nowhere, but you can still get anywhere.
No. Don't get me wrong, because everyone knows that's one of the best things that is not close to, let's say, it's not close to downtown, so you don't get all the people from downtown, and you just get the best where you are.
I know. We don't have all the bells and whistles of the city.
He's in Miami. He's got a pool behind him right now. So.
Yeah. Come on. I think that the biggest thing for me, I felt like we had diversity because we had food stylists to high-end resorts, to fine dining chefs, to folks like, Tony D, who's at Landry's, which is not a high end, but quality and more, fast casual, if you will. So I felt like we had diversity, but then when every restaurant in the country closes down, I'm like, why was I only in one channel?
Right.
And I'm like, how did I not see that? And so I think that, that's probably been my biggest lesson. And I hope we can get through to the other side without it, really being a devastating bad move on my part. And I own it. It's my fault. I guess we were thinking that direction because we had been thinking about the home delivery before this, and ultimately, and we've invested very heavily in the last 5 years in R&D. We think that health and wellness and the nutrient density of vegetables is ultimately where we need to go. Food as medicine, if you will. We actually did a trademark a year ago on pharmacy, FARMACY, and we've got 3 scientists on staff. And unfortunately, it looks like it's been taken over by the medical marijuana.
Of course, of course.
So,
those marijuana guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't convinced Dad that we need to be growing that.
Well, soon you will be. Let me just add something to what you said. That you said is your fault. I wouldn't say that it's your fault, because throughout the years that I've been working for Russ and the Collective, one of the things that I noticed is that it's not just your responsibility. I would say that it's pretty much the entire industry. And one of the things that I got going to the Chef Garden, to Roots, to the conference and everything, is that it's about education. When I was working at JW Marriott in Miami a couple of years ago, I did a test, and I text Jamie for this. So we ordered a bunch of different vegetables and flowers and everything. And I showed to Jamie after a month, the flowers were alive. So it's about like teaching the people. And that's one of the things that we do with Russ and the Collective whenever we were doing the classes, now taking everything online, that we as a chef, we as speakers, we need to put your voice and everyone's voices out there. Otherwise, people are not going to know the quality of the product. That's why I want to take you over on that. And it's not just your fault, but everyone's fault in this case, that not everyone knows the quality. I mean, everyone knows that the Chef Garden has a great quality, but not everyone assimilate how great it is, because listening to you to say it, to Rich, to Rachel, is different as showing people. So when I showed to everyone in the hotel that one of the flower, it was a violet, I think, one of those was literally as brand new after a month. Nobody could believe me, not even Jamie. He was like, are you kidding me that this is like literally after a month? The carrots and everything, they were like amazing, just like fresh. And that was one of the things that surprised me. And that's just, I just want to add that is not your fault. It would be like the entire industry. And it's the same reason why the industry is so hurt right now, because there is many things out there that everyone should be working as a team and not just as individuals.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And we work hard on that. We had a place we had set a sample in that we really thought we should be doing business with. And the chef didn't even know it came in, and somebody took it and didn't know what to do with it. And they put it in a cooler, and it was sitting there. And lo and behold, they're doing a photo shoot. They had ordered some product in from a purveyor, and they got it out and they couldn't use the product. And one of the sous chefs said, there's a box in there from Chef's Garden. And then somebody said, well, that's been there for like 2 weeks. Well, let's open it and take a look. They popped it out, and they couldn't believe it. They used those products in the sample box for the photo shoot. Hopefully we ended up with the account.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Whenever we were there, every time that we go there and we get the tour to the farm and to the packaging, it's just amazing how you take care. I mean, all the computers and all the high tech that you have to know how to pack everything, because it's different if you're sending it to me in Florida, you're sending it to Atlanta or to Washington, D.C. The packaging is totally different, because you know how much ice pack to put in the package or how to pack it. So that's one of the things that everyone should know out there.
Well, and it is in many ways, there's high tech it's kind of a merging of two worlds, because in a lot of ways, my dad has a saying, the only thing we're trying to do is get as good as the growers were 100 years ago. And if you think about that, it was pre-chemical, pre-synthetic fertilizer. They were rebuilding soils naturally rather than chemically.
Wow.
Today, we have the ability to test the results of that and prove it out.
Right.
So 2/3 of our acreage in any one year is actually rebuilding soils through plant-based. I mean, everybody gets that we're going to be a plant-based, plant-forward future. It's just a reality for sustainability.
Yeah.
But I think that if we make the assumption that we can continue to grow plants and vegetables on a commercial scale the way that we are, it's not sustainable, because the nutrient levels have gone down by over 60% since 1945. And
Wow.
a lot of the product that we're testing right now off of grocery store shelves that we're consuming, there's nothing in it.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
We did a test on beta carotene on our carrots the other day. They were testing 300 times higher in beta carotene than a USDA average. I mean, it's just, it's
Wow.
mind-boggling.
Wow.
So as we move towards that, we've got to think about nutrient density, the integrity of the plant.
I just got one quick comment that I want Rachel to jump in here. You kind of made, just was thought-provoking, because we're actually doing a project now at Ocean Reef Club. It's a private island just south of Miami, but
Right.
it's called the Residence Club. It's a brand new club there that's opening up there early next year. And the menu, the concept of the menu is very much plant-based. Now, there'll be some proteins on there and everything as well, but the whole opening page of the first menu is really talking about the produce and the what we're featuring for each season and the properties of each one of those vegetables. Like why like you may say that this is a menu that is with anti-aging in mind.
Mhm.
Well, what properties in what vegetables will promote that? So we really that's what we're trying to focus on. But I feel like you guys are like really pioneers and very much driving that initiative. So
We'd love to be working with the project.
Yeah, I fully intended. I mean, in fact, I was looking at a lot of the things already on the Chef's Garden website, and it already came up in discussion.
Great,
So
great.
we certainly intend on that. So sorry, Rachel.
It's okay. I just touching back on what Chef Rich said earlier about people doing more domestic travel, maybe via road trip. I just made the drive from Michigan down to Atlanta, and anybody who's driven through Ohio knows that it's just miles and miles and miles of fields. And it really just broke my heart to see all of the fields, and because, you'd heard rumors, well, there's going to be a shortage of, maybe peanuts coming due to all of this. So is there any advice that you can give to chefs or even home cooks, how they can help farmers such as yourself or local farmers in their area?
Well, I think that there has been sort of a short-term surge. Some of the small farms, because of the whole situation, have been able to do well. My concern is the sustainability of that. You think about the small farms getting the extra demand and being able to keep it going. And I think that we're going to hit a point where there's going to be a vacuum, and the industrial agriculture is waiting to just be able to fill that gap and take it over. We've made such progress in building those relationships back. Where we lost it in America is when we lost our connection with where our food sources were coming from. Rachel, you're maybe too young to remember, but it was a big deal when the frozen TV dinners came in. After World War II, women were tasked to help in the war. They were welding submarines, they were building machine guns, they were building army tanks. Before that, and it was gender specific, before that, moms were staying at home and cooking for the family and taking care of the family. After the war, families recognized that they could benefit from a 2-income household. And so there was this vacuum, and it was for convenience food, because mom didn't have time or dad didn't have time. Now it can be either gender that would be home, but didn't have time to stay home and cook for the family. And so everything became about convenience, and we lost our connection or connectivity with where food was coming from. We took our eye off of the ball. The pendulum swung, if it will. And in the last 10 years, we've done a lot of good to kind of swing it back the other way. To start, your generation has done a great job at reconnecting and saying, wait a minute, it's important to know where our food is coming from, and we need to know how it was grown. We need to know that the people that are growing the food are being taken care of, and with proper pay and benefits and health care, so that their families, so it's sustainable for those people, but as well the way the food is being grown. So now we ramp up to right now, there's kind of this extra surge. I'm concerned that the small farms like us and all those other small farms out there can sustain it. And I'm just afraid that this, the industrial agriculture is just waiting to be able to take that over and fulfill that. I would encourage everybody to get out and support farmers markets, small family farms. I'm not as wrapped up on distance or local or anything like that about as I am knowing the source of where the food is coming from and
Right.
knowing that the people are doing it right. Obviously, it's pretty easy if you can get to a farmer's market and you can look in the eye of that farmer and you can ask them questions and ask what their process is. But knowing where the food is being produced, knowing that there's somebody conscientious, doing it the way that you would do it if you were growing it for yourself. But I mean, I would support reconnecting with the source, the end user of the food that's being produced in the United States and supporting it. Right now, not only buying from our home delivery boxes that are available online at chefsstatchgarden.com or going to a farmer's market. It's never been more important to buy from them, but you're buying more than a box of vegetables. You're buying more than a dozen ears of corn. You're buying more than a box of tomatoes and green beans. You're buying into the belief that it's imperative and important for farms, small family farms, to make it through to the other side of this, because we're on the ropes. We're on the ropes, and so are all those other small farms out there. And if there's anything that I can say, it's you're buying more than just a box of vegetables. You're voting that it's important that we are here on the other side of this. And it's really, I think it's a point and it's a time when we have to make some decisions and decide that it is important that small farms, small producers are here on the other side of this. So I appreciate you laying that question out and grateful for it. One of the things that we're seeing too is that corporations who have, in many cases, hundreds or thousands of employees at home are buying boxes or can buy boxes for their team members. And to be able to, we've had some folks that have bought 300 boxes to send to the front line of folks that are working at home with their families. And it's a great way to be able to say, I care about your health and wellness and wanted to send you something. And we know that this is difficult times working at home, but it supports a lot of different things. So anyway, I think that's the gift opportunity with the veggies.
That's
certainly
a great
way to
idea.
go.
I think I'm going to send my mom a box of vegetables. She's up in Michigan. She's working for the healthcare, so it's a great idea.
You've said that M word twice now here. I really am glad to meet you. But this is Buckeye country up here.
I think I got myself in trouble.
Are you the green or the blue one?
Oh, go green all the way.
Go green.
Yeah.
That's a little bit easier to swallow.
I'm going to tell you what, as somebody that grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh and the Steelers were like everybody that was like fanatical. And I had not really seen that kind of spirit for their team until I lived in Columbus for a little while. And oh my God, I was like, oh my God, it's like being back in Pittsburgh at Steeler games. It was like, on the weekends, like there's nothing else going on. And it would literally make it like night and day with the traffic you would get in your restaurant.
Right.
We were doing higher end tastings and stuff. And man, if they lost, it was everybody was going to the bars. They didn't want to go to come out to eat at the nice restaurant.
Yeah, the diet became liquid instead of food.
That's right. That's right. Lee, I think, and I think a big part of us when we do these, and this is really kind of even consistent with the classes we've done over the years, is we teach, but we also learn in that process. And every time we've come out there and spent time with you, and you have an amazing team out there, Jamie. And
we do have an amazing team.
Absolutely. And I think that even leading off, as I was kind of referencing the quality of the product and the reputation and all that stuff. But really, I guess at the end of the day, probably we do things. I mean, businesses have to be profitable and all this and everything, but ultimately there's a person that's growing that. There's a person that's packing that. There's people that, and I think that if anything, as we're going through this whole pandemic, is that how can these relationships be on the radar for people when they're making a decision, whether you're getting your selecting who's going to, do some lawn care at your business, or
Right.
if you got to go out and buy a product. I mean, it's really just the relationships and the danger. I mean, it's almost like with this kind of hyper acceleration of technology and all these things. On one hand, it's wonderful. I mean, I can just push a button and something ends up on my doorstep tomorrow. But, in that process, do we cannibalize the relationships and the craftsmen and the people that are out there that are doing what they do, because not just because they're great at it and they love doing it, but because that's their livelihood, and sometimes that's not always on the forefront of the conversation, but
Right.
I'm so glad that you reminded us of that,
I'm grateful to be on and grateful to see you folks today, and I can't wait to see you on the other side of this thing. We're going kind of back to our roots. We used to, have roadside stand, and
Right.
I went with my grandson, and we've got a young man from Ukraine that's living with us right now. And on a Sunday after church, we drove down, and there was a fox den in this old roadside stand that we had built up, and there was a bumblebee hive, and we were using it as irrigation equipment storage building because we had abandoned it 35 years ago, and it was back in the weeds, and it had just really been overtaken, and it was sunken down in the ground, and we spent about a half a day digging it out and emptying it out. We drug it down. My grandson says, "You're not going to pull that thing down the road, are you?" And it literally took up the whole road. I had a tractor. I'm driving this old roadside stand that was on skids down the road.
Wow.
And we pulled it in and cleaned it out and repaired all the rotted board, put a new coat of paint on it. And we're actually opening July 1st. And, for years, people have said, we'd love to get some of this stuff that you're sending to chefs. So we're opening up a roadside stand July 1st and going to open it up to folks to be able to come and get product. So,
That's awesome. Yeah. Let us know about that, and we'll
That's great.
share that with our audience as well on social media.
Yeah.
Are there things that you feel that, like, as far, and I don't want to go because this is a different episode, but as far as it relates to like policy and things that would help farmers. I mean, you've seen like with these restaurant coalitions, small independent restaurants, things that they need, like, hey, we need support with this, we need support with that. How do we reach the American farmers, the producers? Are there policies? Are there things? Are those local? What's on your mind day to day? Like, man, I feel like these are the hurdles that are in front of us, because I feel like as somebody that is navigating day to day through the frenzy of information that we're always taking in, sometimes it's hard to know. Like, I don't always know. I mean, obviously supporting our businesses, but are there things that are like that are hurdles for a small business? Or, I mean, you guys aren't. I mean, you've manifested it into a substantially
we're a
size business, but I know you still consider yourself, a small business.
We're the flea on the end of the tail on the end of the dog.
But what are the things? What are those hurdles? Those
I have really avoided the political end of it. My brother loves that end, and he's worked very diligently. We did take advantage of the PPE,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a huge help to us. There were mistakes in it, obviously. I think they were in such a rush to get it out,
Right.
to try and help folks, that there were some things in retrospect. We have struggled to get some folks to come back to work. So that's been somewhat problematic, but we also are working with the USDA. We did a grant where we're supplying product once a week, and we're working on grants. A lot of this, there's a lot of red tape too. Now, one of the grants we worked on was, I believe, 14 pages.
Wow.
But my brother Bob and his team have been working through that. We've built a good reputation within the chef industry, but when you look at trying to get product out to home delivery, we're not well known in the public eye.
Right.
We're well known within a small niche. And with the home delivery, it needs to be, we did get a good plug in New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and we did see a surge with that. We have been getting some help. Thomas is actually doing another round of, Keith Martin.
Yes.
Elysian Farms with the lamb. His predominant customers are restaurants as well.
Yes, that's
and
right.
So we're trying to do a promotion with the lamb and the vegetable, and he's doing another video on how he would use the vegetables and the lamb, and then making that available. And then Jamie's going to do one. I told Jamie, I said, you're going head to head against Thomas, so expect you to compete. Now the only difference is Thomas has got like 750,000 followers, I think, between French Laundry and his personal, and so he's somewhat at a handicap there, but we're still challenging him to see how many he can sell versus Thomas's. So, but I think that, to answer the question, it's really getting the word out to a broader base of folks. And I don't know how to do that. I've never believed in advertising. I've always believed in trying to do a good job for somebody. And if we did a good enough job, they would tell another chef. And, within the chef industry, if you've taken good care of one chef, you've taken care of a lot of chefs. If you do a bad job for one chef, you've done a bad job for all chefs, because the word travels. And, going back to, so many, we've been so blessed. You can go back to Jean-Louis Paladin at the Watergate in DC, you can go back to Peter Timmons, and you could just, on and on and on. So many folks that have given us a chance. And this next generation of folks like you and Gavin and, Brad Kilgore and all the young, great guys that are the next generation. And we're grateful to have the relationship, and just hope we can continue to be relevant and pivot. Those of us that have the ability to pivot and change with the times will survive, and those of us that can't won't. And I'll tell you, the first 10 days of this, I think I went on adrenaline, because it was very much familiar. We lost the farm in the early 80s.
Yes.
I stood shoulder to shoulder with my mom and dad and brother and sister and all of our neighbors and all of our competitors, and watched the entire farm be auctioned off. And when all of those restaurants closed, it was very eerily a feeling that I had experienced when I was 19 years old, and it didn't feel good. And I don't think I looked up. I was sitting at lunch at home at about day 10, and started looking at some of the social and seeing all the chefs that were posting and trying to help promote. And it was so humbling that I just broke down and wept at the kitchen table, seeing the support. And that was the difference, because, back then we didn't have that network of the culinary community. And today, we are going to get through this together, and we're going to collaborate, and we're going to work together and find ways to get through it. So just so grateful for all that you guys do, and for the friendship and the relationship we have with you guys. And thanks for letting me come on today and be a part of your show.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see you guys back in person and give you a big hug when it's politically, or not politically, but from a health standpoint, correct to give you a hug. In the culinary world, we're huggers.
Right.
And my family's never really been, my dad's, never been really a huggy, kissy guy, but I don't know, you guys broke me of that a long time ago. It's, man, I want to give you a big farmer bear hug. So.
Yeah. Well, that has been, that's something that has been, I've even had interviews with people, and I said, look, I don't want you to feel like this is going to be a breach in etiquette by not shaking my hand, or, I'm just, terrible, that's always been a big part, it's always been a big part, when we see each other and everything, but it has been, this whole thing has asked a lot of us to really change, day to day, so many, it's just been, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Farmer, sorry, Chef.
Chris.
I have a question that I know for a fact, because like I said before, I've been so many times at the farm and at the CVI. I've been in those meetings where you talk and you motivate everyone in your team, not just the farm, but like I said, at the Culinary Vegetable Institute too. So how have you keep everyone motivated throughout this time?
You know, it's an amazing team. Farms don't go on furlough. And, you know, there was never really a question that we had to keep going. I mean, there's an intimacy with the farm and with the land that a farmer has that it's really hard to describe for somebody that doesn't understand, just like we can probably never really understand your world with the kitchen. But you don't walk away from a farm. It's kind of like walking away from a relationship and ignoring that significant other for 3 months and then expect to be well received when you walk back in.
Right.
You know, farm needs loved and nurtured and cared for. And I think that we have shared that culture, and a lot of our team really understand that, and it's why they're there. We asked for voluntary furloughs, and we had people that said, look, I know that this other person needs the hours. They've got a family. I want to take the furlough so that they can keep working. And is it okay if I still come in and work? I mean, it's like very humbling that the team would do that. There's 150 full-time people. Right now, 50 people are laid off, and it's very skinny. It's hard for me because communication is like this. Our meetings are with Zoom because we're really doing everything we can to protect our team and team members. No farm tours since this has begun. So, you know, we're just trying to communicate. Communication, as you guys know, is critical. Right. And finding ways to communicate. And I think really having a very clear goal of what we're trying to accomplish and making sure we communicate that. And this team I'm humbled to get to work with them because they get it. And it's unbelievable. If I had to pick a team to go to battle in, this is the team.
That'll be the one.
So I think communication is key.
That's
It's just difficult because it's a different communication that I'm used to.
Yeah, like you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, I know we're getting pretty close here, so I'm gonna just a few more things, and then I'm gonna let
sure.
Chris and Rachel wrap up with any final question that they may have. But where can everyone find the delivery boxes at, and anything else about where they can find out more about?
Well, we hope they find it on their front porch, Rich.
I like that. Good. That's a good reply.
Chefs-garden.com, and then if you go to home delivery. And what's cool is, you know, we have over the last 35 years got product specialists that know more about product than anybody else in the country.
Right.
You know, you want to do a menu development, you can call in and talk to Sarah or Stephanie or Dawn, you know, or any one of the team members and talk about specific availability of product and how it might be used. And guess what? The chefs aren't calling in right now. So a lot of places that are doing home delivery, it's like they don't want to talk to anybody. Just go to this website and put your order in, and it's all computers talking to computers. And you can do that if you don't want to talk to anybody. If you want to call into the 800-289-4644 number and call and talk to a live person that says, you know what, we really appreciate you calling. It means a lot to our family and our farm. Thank you for calling and putting an order in. And who else can you send one to? You know, doesn't your Aunt Susie really want one of these? So yeah, that's the main way. Obviously, Farmer Lee Jones on Instagram, and that would be the main ways.
Can you repeat the number?
1-800-289-4644.
And Lee, will those boxes be changing to reflect what you have?
You know, they are, and it's really been fun. And I probably haven't done as good a job as we should. I mean, right now with the season the way it is, you know, we got good growing temperatures. We got a beautiful 2 inches of rain over the weekend. Stuff is popping every day right now, and so the box that I think is the best to order is the best of the season because we walk through the garden. It's a walk through the garden. What do we want to pick to take in and put on the dinner table tonight? And that's what we put in the box, but lots of different varieties of the squash. We're picking them a little bit bigger. not the baby stuff. We're going a little bigger because I think everybody really wants something comfortable right now. So something that looks more like a summer squash and a zucchini squash that they're used to seeing than a baby squash. So we've changed the whole product mix. We're growing sweet corn for the first time in 35 years,
Wow.
bell peppers,
Wow.
and some of the more common things that I think we want comfort right now. There's no way to really understand how this has affected us, financially and emotionally and socially. And so having food in that box that they know where it comes from, but also that it's comfort food. So best of the season is definitely my pick of all the different options that are available.
Great.
Jamie's got
Well,
a cool one coming up. We're working with Rod Marcus from Rare Tea Sellers. He handles a lot of different caviars, and there's several from the Midwest that are really amazing. And Jamie's doing a vegetable and caviar pairing that's going to be available online. And you'll be able to buy that and do the tasting right at home. That's going to be fun.
Nice.
That's
Well,
cool.
we're huge fans of Jamie as well, and like I said, we consider you guys, we love you guys, we consider you like family, and you can reach out with any of the initiatives, anything we can do to support, and we're just obviously huge fans, and we love the product, but really the people are what's behind the product.
Yeah.
So I'll let Chris and Rachel kind of wrap things up, and
We
thanks for
love
giving
you
us some
too,
time.
and we feel quite the same. I'll just get that in right now, Rich.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Rachel, you want to go first?
I don't have any further questions. I think you answered my last question there, as you mentioned how you guys kind of made the shift and you're picking vegetables a little bit bigger in size. That was, my question on how are you going to adjust? But no further questions. But definitely when this is all over, I would love to make a trip up there. I have not been to the farm to visit. When this is all safe to travel and safe to hug and tour and everything else, I would definitely
You'll
love
have
to
to
get up
stop on the way back up to Michigan next time, and just don't
You
wear any
know-
Michigan hats or anything.
there. I'm not sure I'll make that drive. I
You
think
just
I would
need to
rather
wash the car
fly.
off before you come into Ohio. Get all the dirt off.
Right.
Now, Rachel, we'll leave the light on for you, but we do have a rule on the farm. After the third day, you're no longer a visitor. We will put you to work.
Absolutely. Will do.
That's
I
awesome.
think Jamie doesn't wait till 3 days, does he, Chris?
No, but it's great because Jamie is one of the most welcoming person that I've known throughout the years. Farmer, I have one more question that I've been always kind of like wondering. You have so many vegetables, and everyone knows that, probably over, 500, 600 different vegetables, from flowers to anything. Which one is your favorite fast food?
Fast food?
Yes.
Everybody eats
Yeah.
there's something.
At least, I don't know, say fried tomato or something like that. I don't know.
or your
man.
guilty. What might that be? Maybe it's Oreo cookies. What is it? Something. There's
Yeah.
got to be
Right.
something.
Yeah,
You're not
it has
eating
to
all
be
those
something.
amazing
Yeah.
carrots and everything all the time.
Yeah, right. I see it threw me because I thought you were going to say, what's your favorite vegetable? When I had my answer already and you threw me.
We wanna know that,
Fast
too.
food.
No, that would be too easy, but
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Well, I am partial to peanut butter pie.
All
Okay.
right.
So,
That's interesting. Yeah.
We have a ice cream stand down the road that my mother worked at when she was 15 years old, and the same family still owns it. And when
Wow.
my mom and dad met in the 7th grade. My mother wouldn't let dad take her out till the 11th grade, but my dad never had 2 pennies to rub together, and he wouldn't take a freebie. But when the owner saw my dad coming, he would whisper to my mom, say, "You better make a mistake. Here comes Bob." He would take a mistake. It's like, "Oh, we made a mistake on this order. Would you like to have it?" Well, I'd hate for it to go to waste. So, but I like to go to. It's
That's
notorious. People that move away from this area bring grandchildren back to go to the Pied Piper.
Wow.
And if we haven't taken you, shame on us. We'll take you next time you're here.
But I do got to know, like, what is your go-to vegetable? You get all those to select from. What's your favorite?
I mean, it depends on the season. Right now it's white asparagus.
Oh, yes.
When asparagus is in season, we should eat it 3 times a day. When it's out of season, we should lust for it for 10 more months. Mother Nature provides such a natural rhythm to what we should eat, what we should put on the menus. Should never be a doubt. What is Mother Nature giving us? And that's what we use. It's at the best flavor. It's at the best harvesting time, and I mean, that's what you go with. What's in season, and then look forward to those. Can we get asparagus 12 months a year? Yeah, out of Peru, Guatemala, Ecuador, somewhere. But should we? I don't know. It's just, I guess it's up to you. But I like the rhythm of the seasons to answer that question.
Amen.
That's great.
Well, everybody, I think that's concludes our episode with Farmer Lee Jones of the Chef's Garden and CVI. Lee, all our best to everybody out there. We look forward to when things get back to normal, coming out and visiting again soon. And thanks so much for spending some time with us today. We really enjoyed the conversation.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's great to see you guys. Rachel, great to meet you.
It was so nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
You
My
know where to go
pleasure.
next time, Rachel. Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Lee.
Farmer.
Yep, absolutely.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.